I think it's imperative that the students are able to see people that look like them or people that are from places that they're from in spaces of power or in spaces of higher education, or that are also principal investigators, because that allows them to lessen their imposter syndrome that they have going on, so that they're able to, obtain their dreams or their goals, or even just think about going after that post undergraduate, or even like post high school. It's very important that we also don't make DEI or diversity just a sexy term or a cool term. DEI is life. We have to realize that, yes, we want to throw now DEI into our works, into our grants, but we actively putting in the effort to make DEI in our workplaces, to have DEI trainings, to have DEI students. It's very important that we're able to not forget the reason of why we're doing the things that we do, and not because it looks or sounds good.
Welcome to Public Health Careers. I'm your host, Emory Richards, founder of the Public Health Millennial. We're going to dive deep into public health topics and career journeys. You'll hear diverse career stories, absorb professional development and career strategies, get tips, while also learning from others to help you in your own journey and learning of public health. Learn about the vast world of public health careers, or just hear public health stories. Stay tuned so we can do our part towards a culture of health, well-being, and equity for all.
Hey friends, welcome to Public Health Careers. In today's episode, you'll hear more about Postdoctoral Health Fellowship as well as a Postdoctoral Education Fellowship, why this person decided to pursue it, and what she get from it after a PhD. So very insightful things if you're thinking about a PhD or a postdoc. She talks about the importance of STEM diversity, representation, and mentorship, as well as the importance of networking and just how fundamental that has been to her journey and all that she has done and where she's going. So definitely great insights today. If you enjoyed today's content, all I ask is that you hit that subscribe button, leave a review, share with a friend who gets some value from it. That really is the best way to help support the show, support the Public Health Millennial, get out to more people, and just create bigger impact in public health. So thank you so much for subscribing, leaving a review, and share it with someone. Greatly appreciate that. Okay, now enjoy the show.
Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Jada Hoyle-Gardner. I'm an environmental health scientist and a postdoc research fellow at Emory University, and you're listening to Public Health Careers.
Today we have someone with experiences including training in microbiology, toxicology, and public health. She also supports mentorship for future STEM professionals. She conferred a Bachelor in chemistry at Spelman College. She then got her PhD in environmental science at Florida A&M University. She is currently a postdoctoral research fellow at Rollins School of Public Health at Emory University. We have Dr. Jada Hoyle-Gardner, PhD. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Truly is my pleasure. I'm looking forward to hearing more about your story and how you got there. So how do you identify, and tell us a little bit about your personal background?
I am a Jersey girl, originally from North New Jersey, only child. I come from a background where a lot of people in my family do not have a STEM career. And early on, my parents saw that I was interested in some form of chemistry or engineering. So my parents put me into summer camps that were centered in STEM, originally engineering. But once I got to Spelman College, I realized that was not the pathway for me. And I needed to figure out another way to get to my dreams of still being a scientist. I decided to go into chemistry instead, also with a focus in education as well, just to build my background in that. And then I also decided to get my PhD because down the line, I knew that I wanted to be involved in academia in some way, shape, or form, as well as being a principal scientist. And that's what led me to where I am now at Rollins School of Public Health.
Okay. Well, thank you for walking us through that. That definitely gives like a high level oversight into everything that we're going to talk about here, which is very much appreciated. And I can imagine just how the journey has evolved, especially as someone who didn't have anyone in their family that was in a STEM career, and just like realizing that there's all these things you can do. And I'm more interested in hearing about like the engineering, and then I guess switching to chemistry or whatever that is. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Before we get into anything else, I wanted to ask, like, talk more about utilizing computational and molecular tools to understand the health effects of pollutants on the microbiome of mothers and their infants.
Yes. So our overview of our project is called HAPIN, the Household Air Pollution Intervention Network. And what we do essentially is trying to figure out a direct connection between the health effects on minority women and also high exposure to air pollution. Now, a lot of times we know that historically, women of color are usually the ones that would be like the cooking and the cleaning and such like that. And there we're seeing a result in like the health of the babies and the mothers that has short-term and long-term effects. So what I choose to do is take a more interdisciplinary approach. I work with not only a team of chemists like myself, but I work with a team of engineers and nutritionists as well. And we put in place intervention practices. But before we get to that, my job comes in. And with that, I try to use more so like R coding or sequencing to better understand how these biological changes are occurring. And we do it over a certain time frame. So like when the mothers are about 2 to 3 months pregnant up until the babies are about 2 years old. So with that type of scope, we have my background where we're looking at it from the biological standpoint. We have a nutritional standpoint from those scientists, and then we have the intervention standpoint, which collaborates all of our data, and we work with engineers to try to put in place ways to lessen the impact of that exposure.
That was quite a lot there, but I appreciate it, and I think this is a fascinating topic, and it's not it is a very important topic, especially considering just how important I think our microbiomes are and how the understanding of that in health, as well as just understanding like pollutants and just the air that we have around us is different for different communities and what impact that has on our health as well. So can you tell us a little bit about like how you got involved, like interested in this type of work, and how you got into this HAPIN project, and how long has HAPIN been going on?
Yeah, definitely. So HAPPEN has been going on years before I even got to grad school. It's a very strategic project because it encompasses data from other communities as well. So not just in Guatemala, what I work with, but we're starting a project in India. We're starting a project in the Caribbean. We have, projects here in the United States. So it's a very collaborative approach. How I got into it was while I was at my graduate program of FAMU, I was very much interested in public health work. My dissertation kind of focused on understanding how the impact of pollutants in the air had a indirect impact on the health and the ecosystem. So from there, I said, well, I want to go more into like community work and community engagement, and that led me to a more public health or environmental health standpoint. At that time, when I graduated, it was a very hard time for people with higher degrees to get a job. And especially for postdocs, a lot of places just, weren't hiring. So I had to really come back and say, well, I know I'll have these schools or don't want to go into industry. I was kind of applying to both. And I decided more on postdoc because I knew I wanted to get more foundational skills before I went into like government or industry or even academia later on. I like the project that I'm on. I chose to work with this because, like I said, my background is in chemistry, but I want to really increase my public health skills. And the team that I work with now, all of us help each other out in so many different ways that I'm learning a lot of things I didn't know back then that make me very independent, but also allow me to work with other STEM majors on various projects under the HAPIN project. So
And tell us
I would
more
say
about
it was just a random one.
tell us more about the experience of working with an interdisciplinary team in this work that you're doing here, and how important that is, or what you've learned from that type of work.
Yeah, definitely. I love it. I think science should be interdisciplinary. I know a lot of other majors feel like a lot of times chemists should be with chemists, engineers should be with engineers, health people should be with health careers. And I feel like that's not realistic of what society is. We are very collaborative in science today. You have to work with doctors, you have to work with outreach people, you have to work with the people that work in the labs. So I feel like it's a good opportunity, especially in postdocs, where you get to build and understand what goes on behind the scenes in other disciplinaries. And a lot of times, like I said, they help each other out. Like I said, my background is not in environmental health or in epi, but I have the nutritionists that work with us that is their background, and they help me out, and I help them out with more of like the publication or science communication side because you do a lot of that in graduate school. So it's like a lot of give and take in a sense, but we also give each other credit and also give each other grace where if it's something new that we don't know, we should at least provide the resources to help each other out.
none of the work that we do happens in a vacuum. And I think like having that interdisciplinary approach and having like all the different sectors and perspectives at the table just brings about a more robust solution or just work that you're doing.
Mhm.
So I definitely advocate for it as well. So that's awesome. What does public health mean to you?
Ooh, that's a good one. Public health means to me, public health means everybody, anybody having the security to live the life they want to live in a healthy manner. And, that's just in a way that it's not a privilege, it's a right. That you don't have to be worried that this community compared to others, for example, is being more impacted by contamination or by pollution. Or another community doesn't have access to healthcare because of their race, gender, sexual orientation, things of that nature. I feel like public health is essentially our way of life, and understanding how that connects from the biological standpoint to the social standpoint is very important for us to better ourselves in the community.
Absolutely is our way of life. And when we look at life, health is like the fundamental thing there. And in that is like, how do we ensure that the public the public has the best health or like the optimal ways to achieve health? And yeah, that definitely is public health. You got your bachelor's in chemistry at Spelman College, but you said you went in there as an engineer major, or you applied as an engineer major. So tell us about that thought process, I guess, going from I guess a young lady interested in STEM, then applying for university, getting in there for engineering major, and then switching over to chemistry. Or what was that process for you?
Yes, so I try to be very candid and honest as possible. My educational options fluctuated a lot in undergrad. Like I said, up to when I was going to apply to Spelman, or when I did apply to Spelman College and other colleges, I was going in as a biomedical engineer major with possibly a minor in chemistry. So I had very, very big expectations for myself. I even started a semester early to start like a pre-college summer program where I was able to get some pre-credits towards my engineering degree. But once I got to school, I realized that the expectation and the workload was just a lot for me. And I try to always tell my mentees or undergraduate students I talk to that mental health is also very important. Yes, you want that degree, but you want to get that degree happily. And when I went to it, I just realized that I love the innovative work that engineers do, but it was not meant for me. I was not happy with, that coursework or with that major. So in the middle of my freshman year, towards the end of that first semester, I'm trying to figure out, well, what do I do? Because I know I'm good at STEM, and most times people do one thing: engineering or med school. And especially people from a non-STEM background, that's what think is what you're supposed to do. I didn't want to go to med school because that's just that's a lot of my heart. I can't do that. And I knew that was not me either. So I was able to actually talk to my advisor at the time, who I still work with to this day. And she said, well, you're really good at laboratory work. You have great mentorship and teaching skills. Why don't you, just go to the chemistry track, the regular chemistry track, and just take the necessary electives that you feel will prepare you for graduate school. And I said, you're a freshman. Okay. It's similar track. I'll still graduate on time. That's cool. And I loved chemistry. Like, I fell in love with it once you get past orgo, but I love chemistry. I was
Agreed.
able to take, look, orgo was hard. I was able to take like environmental health class. I was able to take a psychology of HIV class. And I just knew that this academic pathway was for me. So that's essentially what happened. And I kind of had that same hesitancy when I was applying to graduate school because, again, I was like, well, do I want to get a master's in chemistry? Do I want to get a master's in public health? I want to get a PhD in chemistry. What's the best route? And then I realized, though, I didn't, again, want to be boxed in to some sort of research or expectation because of my major. And a lot of times, yes, your major is not the most prominent thing in graduate school, but again, I wanted to be collaborative and interdisciplinary. So that's why I chose from there. Instead of getting a PhD in chemistry, I wanted to go more the environmental science, health sciences route instead.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, and I could imagine, and I just think it's like so important for us to have people in our lives because many times as young people going into college, we're like, okay, I want to be do this one thing, and then you realize, oh, this class is
Mhm.
not for me, or
That is
like
not
just
it.
right, right, and I think it's
No.
just so important to continue to highlight that there is a way forward regardless of where you started. There are ways that you can use wherever you started and pivot into something else and find your path in engineering or public health or whatever the case might be. And just having those conversations with people are so important, and having those mentors I think are so important as well. You alluded to wanting to get into graduate school, so was that something that you already had planned, like I'm going to go to graduate school after my bachelor's degree, or was that something that came up during your undergrad?
So I would say I knew I wanted to go to some type of secondary school after, like whether it was originally, like I said, I thought maybe med school, but I knew that wasn't it. So then graduate school. I knew I didn't want to go into the workforce right away. I didn't want to do that. Also, I have a strong background in research, but I wouldn't say I was a straight A student in undergrad. And that played a factor or playing a factor in me being hesitant to apply to graduate school because I felt like I was having imposter syndrome. Like I didn't feel like I was good enough or I wasn't ready, and a lot of times that's the thing that Black and brown communities or students feel when they're applying to like graduate school or undergrad. Like they have that imposter syndrome. And I was, like I said, doing my senior year, I was just kind of nervous. And then again, I had my advisors there and they pretty much reassured me. They said, sell yourself through your personal statement, sell yourself through connecting or networking. And I know I'm great in person. Like what I am on paper looks great, but in person I'm definitely able to demonstrate my passion and love for what I do. So that's what I did, and that's kind of what brought me to graduate school. And then also, I was just being at the right time in the right place because during my senior year, they were having schools and industries, come visit the seniors at Spelman College. And this one, my dissertation advisor at FAMU, who of course, I didn't know at that time, came and said we have fully funded slots for a couple of students here just from Spelman because he used to work at Spelman. It's an environmental science, let's think about it. And he knew my senior advisor. So she said, hey, you should have a meeting with him, talk to him, just see how their program is. And then, like I said, being at the right place at the right time, we spoke to each other, very interested in his research. I applied, I got in, I ended up also being able to go fully funded for the time that I was there, which was great, and having a stipend. So the pieces fell into place with me going to Florida A&M University, but specifically just going to graduate school in general.
Yeah, that's lit. That's lit. And I'll come back to some more questions about that thought process of grad school, or maybe talking more about the imposter syndrome. But when you were in your bachelor's degree, you had a few different positions that I'll name out, and then you can talk about the experiences. So you were a research assistant, teaching assistant, NSF STEM undergrad research educator intern at Spelman College, as well as a research assistant at Georgia State University. So do you know talk a little bit about those experiences you had during undergrad?
Definitely, sure. So, like I said, when I was there, I kind of didn't have a straight idea of what I wanted to do, but I knew I liked education and I knew I liked research. So, just to go just on the research side of things, Spelman College allows students to do a senior thesis project, and I was able to start from like my freshman sophomore year up throughout my whole time. And I was also able to get a scholarship because of that to help fund my research to complete it. And with that, it was a Spelman College is small, so the research lab is very small. But again, I didn't mind that because what I'm working on is collaborative, possibly with other departments at the college. And that was a great experience because I was able to lead the project. I was able to pick a project, which was very new. My senior year, I got an award for it for best poster presentation because of it and for it being very innovative, which I loved. And that project was just really great. But I also wanted to get outside experience just to see what else was out there while going through my time at Spelman. So I applied to be a research assistant for a summer at Georgia State, which was also NSF funded. And that was more so in biotechnology. And even though I didn't stick with the topic, I did know that this was something I still want to similarly work on, but just on another type of research project. It was a great project, again, a new project, but it wasn't the project for me. And in addition to that, like I said, I had a big focus on education. So we have a project, like you mentioned, called Shore at Spelman College, which allows the students to be able to pick a research project in education and then also teach at neighboring high schools in the area. So I was able to teach a summer program for students that were sophomores, repeating sophomores, juniors, and some first, like some pre-freshmen as well in biology and chemistry. And then from there, I was able to form a project where I looked at understanding how gender in inner city kids affects their attitudes towards being a STEM major in college. So that was really eye-opening just to see, again, how interdisciplinary educational science is, because your gender does play a role, your location does play a role, but also your educational home plays a role, because that's going to have a stance on the resources that you have to even be able to learn any type of general STEM materials. And that really opened my eyes to hardening that I really want to go into education, specifically with minority students, because I feel like it's very imperative for them to have that mentorship that I was able to give to those high school students.
As you're saying, like you have to be in certain environments to get exposed to this, to know that you can do it and know that like it's a career and that there are people like yourself that are also doing it. So I commend you for that type of work, and I think
Thank you.
it is what we need more of. So I appreciate that. And did you have any undergrad takeaways that you wanted to share with us throughout your time at Spelman?
Um, my undergrad takeaway, the first one is to just go for it and hustle hard. Like I said, my pathway was not straight. I figured out everything every year. It was something new, something different that I applied for or got, and some things I didn't get. And it's okay to doubt yourself, but don't doubt yourself in a way that limits your abilities to make the impact. And that's why I had to teach myself coming out of Spelman, or what I learned while being at Spelman, is to go for opportunities, even if they seem like they're far fetched or too far away for me to grasp. And then also make those connections, because I was able to, like I say, figure out other graduate opportunities because of the connections I had in my department. I was also able to go into like the education research just off the strength of me talking to other people at my school or talking to other Spelman sisters. So that community bond in your academia in undergrad is also very important as well for students. So I would say, like I said, my takeaway is to always go for something and to hustle hard and go for other things as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, and it kind of shows like that the importance of networking, just talking about your story and just being able to be with people and mentors that have been able to either connect you or like give you information, which I think is
Mm-hmm.
very, very important. And I have here, after undergrad, you became an upward bound math and science state tutor counselor at Morehouse College. So can you tell us a little bit about that experience? And was that after undergrad? Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, so that was
Okay.
for a summer program, Upward Bound, and Upward Bound is just it's in other schools as well, because I also participate in something similar to that in New Jersey, but it's basically a program for students to come and take like summer classes. They have a summer project. Some programs the students stay on campus, whichever campus they are, during the week. Some programs they just come for the during the day. For that program, we were with these kids 24/7, so that was a new experience for me. But I was also able to, like I said, teach. And what I liked about the program is you don't really go in with a specific idea of like a project or how you want your classroom to run. So yes, I had a mentor teacher help me with things, but essentially I formulated the classroom discussions, or I formulated the projects and worked with these students. These students did not all know each other, so that's also new. You're seeing the social engagement of high schoolers again, and how they are trying to make friends and things and seeing strong personalities. You see introverted personalities, how those dynamics occur. So you just have to really take in that you're not just a teacher, but sometimes you're going to be a big sister, you're going to be a mentor, you're going to be a counselor, you're going to be, sometimes they're like, does my hair look nice? You're going to be a hair person some days. Like it's a big job, but the program was so much fun. Like I loved it. And the kids are like amazing and they're so smart. And it's just the fact that a lot of times some programs and some people don't want to give them the opportunity to show who they are, and it just, it can end up hurting their confidence and self-esteem, or even wanting to try at stuff. But through Upward Bound, we try to at least give them the platform to try new things, or tell us what you want to learn and tell us what you want to do, and try to incorporate that into the lessons.
Very important, especially in today's world where children, and many times children of color, are told to like sit down or don't do this, but they're not really understanding the reasons why they might be acting a certain way, or give them an appreciation for them as people, as well as like showing them like they can try these hard things and they can do these hard things, and they have a future in STEM if that's something that they're interested in doing.
Yeah, and definitely also we try with Upward Bound that even if they don't want to go into STEM, that's okay too. Because I feel like a lot of times some educational institutions are putting so much pressure on STEM that we do forget that some students like politics, or like the arts, or like philosophy or humanities. So we do try to at least put emphasis on, going to college, getting some type of college degree, since I said they're high schoolers, or if they choose not to, doing something past high school, a job, a trade, something that's going to let them use their skills, just trying to be supportive in whatever they decide to do.
And then you spoke a little bit about it earlier about going into your PhD in environmental science at Florida A&M University. You spoke about, first I want to ask about the imposter syndrome that you spoke about earlier, saying that you you don't know if you'd get in, and just like talk to us more about how you overcame that, or if someone else, a student, is in their undergrad and they're thinking about applying for grad schools, what kind of advice would you give them if they are trying to like kind of suffering with imposter syndrome at the moment?
I will say that being nervous or hesitant is normal. I feel like sometimes we don't normalize that, and it's okay to be nervous of new things that you never tried before. That's perfectly fine. But yeah, so when I was applying to graduate school, like I said, I never had anybody in my family apply to graduate school in STEM before, let alone like a PhD program. So the process in itself was a little nerve wracking, because I'm like, did I fill this out right? Is my essay okay? Did I spell this correctly? Just worrying about the little specific details, which is can be a nerve wracking in itself. But then when I got there, or when I was about to really get to FAMU, I heard some professors from like other institutions as well say, "Well, you're coming right out of undergrad. Are you sure you don't want to go for a master's first? Like going straight into a PhD program can be very struggling." So then that puts it down on you, like, well, should I go for a master's? But then I knew I didn't necessarily need a master's because I wanted a PhD. So a master's would be a great addition, but that was not my final destination. There's no point for me to do that at that time. And then once I got to FAMU, which I love my school and I love my cohort, I was the youngest in my PhD cohort. So that also impacts me, because you have other colleagues that who may have been working federal jobs at one point, who also might have a master's at one point, um, who might possibly also be doing other things as well. And it's just like I was just really nervous that was this really for me?
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense, and I think it seems like a lot of people are also putting their limiting beliefs onto you, saying like this might be hard, or like just coming at it maybe from a good place, but many times I feel like we have our own journeys to run, and many times people don't know everything that we have going on, or like our motivations and discipline and belief. And I think just trying to cultivate that type of self-belief and is very important, especially when the world is kind of like telling you something else, or trying to like dissuade you from doing something that you really think is the correct next step in your path. And
Yeah.
in that, you said that you chose to get a PhD as opposed to going to get a master's and then a PhD. Can you tell us a little bit about that thought process?
Yeah. So I don't want to say like there's nothing wrong with getting a master's, but like I said, I essentially want to go and get my PhD in the end. And I just felt that trying to go for a master's or getting a master's degree, like I said, would be a great addition. but I'm essentially going to learn the same things I'm getting in my master's and my PhD program. So it would be great if my program allowed me to do both a master's and PhD at the same time, but essentially, I didn't see the need to do both when I knew my end goal was to get my PhD.
It makes sense, as well as like just thinking about the perspective of, you said that your PhD program was fully funded with a stipend. It is very tough to get a master's
Yeah.
program that is fully funded. So like I could imagine just that financial benefit is something that
Yeah,
I think people.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. I try to tell people that are applying to masters, doing the masters versus PhD. I say try to go for places that have funding, because you may not think about it now, but down the line, especially if you have to like pay out of pocket or loans for undergrad, which I had to, it helps in the end.
Absolutely does, and I think it's a bigger conversation that we need to continue to have. You had a few positions during your PhD program, and I'll name them out, and then you can tell us more about the experiences. So you were a teaching assistant and graduate research assistant at FAMU. You were a student mentor in PE STEM, pre-STEM, I don't know if I spelled that wrong, an environmental educational program, and you were a NASA intern at NASA Ames Research Center. So tell us about those.
Oh, when you say it, it does sound like a lot. Um, in generally speaking, in usual PhD programs or graduate programs, you do have to be like a teacher's assistant or research assistant in addition to your normal classwork and schedule. And so I did it for a semester, and then I just kind of continued it my whole time while at FAMU, because, like I said, I like mentorship and I like teaching, and I was able to get that foundation in graduate school teaching, while knowing that when I'm going or leaving FAMU, I do want to go into academia. So it looks good in your resume, but also you're learning how to speak to now college students instead of high school students, or you're engaging with college students, and also you're helping them write reports or have presentations or such of that matter. And another thing to touch on was the NASA one, because a lot of times people ask me, well, how did environmental science major get into NASA? And that was, again, talking about being in the right place at the right time. I was applying for an internship, and I chose to look at this research program that NASA had, the Billboard, and they had one in like geosciences. And then I realized that that one was not the right fit for me. But again, the recruiter said, well, we have a position open in environmental science and biosciences. And I said, okay, well, let me see what that's about. And I talked to the mentor that was over that, and we clicked, and I ended up getting that position as well, which is really great because it's definitely cool to talk about. I worked in some research that will be put into space, and a lot of people can't say
Oh.
that. But that also just shows how very diverse environmental science is, especially for people who don't want to just go, like I said, to a straight like chemistry degree or biology degree. If you want to go into something that's more broad, you can apply your skills over a wide range of projects. Environmental science definitely would be the pathway for you.
That really is awesome. Definitely first on the show, someone putting something into outer space. So I appreciate you coming on and being able to do that. That's really cool to hear. And yeah, I think it's important that we do highlight that there's just so many ways that you can take your degree and use it in these non-traditional types of roles or in organizations, and just keep on looking for those types of positions and roles, because you never know when you'll be able to utilize your degree to do some of this work. And earlier you said that your dissertation was around pollutants in the air and their impact on health. Can you tell us about the thought process of like choosing that as your dissertation, and then maybe what were some of the key learnings that you learned throughout your dissertation?
Yeah, definitely. So, my project was in collaboration with the Department of Energy's MSIPP program, which is a program or a pathways program that allows minority students in graduate school to work on cutting edge research with the hopes that they would possibly go into something similar post graduation. So my research focused on a new novel technique called bioremediation, which is the use of living organisms like plants or bacteria, which I did, to help clean up waste in the environment. And this is a project that's new because a lot of times a lot of facilities might put out new chemicals or other techniques might not be as safe. And then we have an outpouring of these chemicals back into the environment, which can then impact the people that live in that community, or impact the agriculture, or impact the water systems or the air, etc. So it's a really big issue, especially in cities that are near these type of facilities. But my research, we chose to use these natural living organisms to actually clean up the waste, and we saw that they're doing it in a safer and more efficient manner. So what drew me to this was that I love new challenges and I love new research. And since this project was so new and it was so new at FAMU, I really just said, why not? You know, in a sense, it's comparing my love for science, but also, like I said, my love for the community. Since I had a strong background in physical sciences and in biochemistry from Spelman College, I was able to apply that to my research, but also learn new parts of like the engineering scope of the geosciences scope of what we were doing as well. So that's really what drew me to that. I'm also using my skills, but cultivating new skills as well on a super new project that sounds super cool to tell people. I work with like uranium and bacteria.
Yeah, that is definitely not something that you hear every day. So it is cool, and that's awesome to hear about. And I think like this is work that is becoming even more important, especially when we think about like pollutants in our water and things like that. And I think about it in the oil industry, and just randomly, my ex girlfriend, her dad did a PhD in something similar. He was doing some study around like oil spillage and ways to like contain that. I think
Oh yeah.
using bioremediation techniques, and kind of like creating a tier list of what a spill is and what are the different technique that you can use to create like the safest water afterwards or whatnot. I haven't heard about this work in a very long time, so I'm probably butchering it in a lot of different ways. But just just cool to hear that like people are doing this work, especially considering how much pollutants we have and like what climate change can do to the pollutants that we have in our communities.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people forget how interconnected all these systems are in our environment. We need water to help grow our agriculture. So if something's in our water system, it can get into our food system. If something's in our food system, then it's going to impact our health. If these things are impacting the health of mothers, then it's going to in turn impact the health of children, and then in turn impact the health of our communities. So a lot of these things are interconnected that we don't really see or maybe take for granted a lot of times.
Absolutely, and I think that that's where the topic of like One Health comes up. But I feel like public health should be One Health, just in general speaking. But
Mhm.
it is important to think about that interconnectedness and that it is a system, and when one thing is affected, it definitely affects other parts of the system as well. You are a postdoctoral research fellow at Rollins School of Public Health at Emory University. Earlier, you shared a little bit that you wanted to develop fundamental skills before you went into industry or academia. Tell us more about what a postdoctoral is, and then more about why you chose to get one.
A postdoctoral research fellow or trainee or postdoc for short is a person that goes to get like a training fellowship after they get their PhD. And usually this is for, it could be up to 1 year, 2 years, or 4 years, depending on what type of postdoc you're in. There's various types of postdocs. Like I said, there's research postdocs, there's education postdocs, which I'm transitioning to now. But there's a variety of types of things that you can do. And essentially, while you're a postdoc, you do like your laboratory work or whatever research work that you have, but you're also attending seminars, you're going to lectures, you're presenting at conferences, you're making publications. So you're just trying to get, like I said, the skills needed to become a better research scientist once you're done with your contract. So what drew me to do this was, like I said, I felt like I needed more necessary skills if I wanted to go into public health, specifically environmental health or toxicology. And with the postdoc, like I said, it's so broad of like what your project can be, because you can have this super huge project like I had with HAPIN, but I was able to formulate my own specific research project. And from this, I'm knowing that I'm going to have at least 2 to 5 publications coming out of that now, which is great, for a researcher, especially myself, if I am planning to go straight into academia. I'm also now a newly appointed postdoc in the in the first program. And this is like a more educational postdoc to where we're allowed to go out and teach in the AUC, and we're getting the skills, like we go into a teaching class to learn about the different types of teaching techniques, the things that I need to be an effective teacher, learning how to communicate our research or our lessons to college students if we want to go to like an undergrad institution or graduate institution, but also it just allows you to have the skills to go into science communication if you choose to go more on like the background end of being in the STEM field in academia. So I would always say that what drew me to being a postdoc in the end was just how I'm able to fix my own research pathway, and I'm able to get the skills I needed, not just in my own lab, but collaborating with other postdocs as well.
How did you go about researching postdoc opportunities and then like deciding on one, or was it something that just kind of came across your purview when you were looking for postdocs?
I would say it's a mixture of both. So with FAMU, they do have great interactions with other schools as well. So we would get emails, bulletin board notifications, or dashboard notifications. Oh, somebody's hiring these postdocs or this number of postdocs. We have this new fellowship coming up. With like I said, with collaborative facilities like the Department of Energy, they have postdoc positions they would send to us initially. So that would come in, but also just doing my own research about what type of school I wanted to go to. I knew I wanted to come back to Atlanta because I was in Florida. So I was looking at programs in Atlanta, and Emory University's public health, Rollins School of Public Health, is one of the top public health schools in the world. So that's a great thing to look at, as well as the ranking and the information that they have, but also the funding, because that's important. Um, and then also I looked at diversity. So when I was looking at postdocs, I would search like, okay, I want this type of institution or this type of school. Look at who works there. Look at who's in the department, the research that they're doing. So like I said, it was a kickstart of my FAMU institution giving me information. But more largely, I went out on Google and just would type like look on the department, say postdocs, Emory University, and then usually you can go on their website and they'll list the positions as new job opportunities.
Okay, that makes sense. And could you tell us more about the differences between this research postdoc and the educational postdoc? Is it more so that this is the research is more focused on trying to teach you about how to become like a better researcher, as you said, or scientist, and then the educational one is more focused on becoming a like academic professor, or you could probably explain it better than I do.
Yeah, generally speaking, that's what I would say. It is. When I was on my other postdoc contract or fellowship, it was like I said, 100% research. So I have to be in the lab, or when I need to be in the lab, I can do that, or I have to do a certain amount of hours analyzing my data. Like that's my priority in a sense. Um, with this new postdoc trainee fellowship that I got with first allows me to do actually both. So with your first year, you're still 100% doing your lab research. And then the transitions next year is like 50-50. And then the next year, you're doing primarily teaching and a little less of being in your lab or doing your wet research if you have to do that. And that more so, like I said, teaches you the balances of being a professor or being in academia as well. And you're more exposed to these types of trainings or fellowships with other people who have similar background, well, similar interests in education, because your cohort in first is going to be very different. Like in my cohort, it's me, a public health scientist. We have two neurosurgeons. We have computational scientists. We have a psychiatrist. So it's very diverse, as opposed to if you're doing your research-based fellowship, you're going to have more people that are in that same type of project or scope.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that they would have like postdocs that are so interdisciplinary, but I could see the value in having that. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
And then I wanted to go back to like the HAPIN program that you were speaking about at the beginning of the interview. You said that the work that you're doing was in Guatemala. Am I correct in repeating
Mm-hmm.
that?
Yes.
Okay, so so tell us what did you have to go to Guatemala to do this work? Were you just getting data that they were collecting in Guatemala, and then you would analyze that data? What was that experience like?
Yeah. So I wish I can go to Guatemala, but I did not. They did this research was from over a span of years. So they already went and had the data collected from the mothers, and the data would be like the blood samples or the breast milk samples from them. This was all already done. So once I got to Emory, I was pretty much organizing the data and I'm still organizing the data into a way that we can quantify it, and then figuring out ways to realistically or effectively compare what we're seeing. So I didn't get to go over there. I didn't really get to meet any of the mothers or the children or anything of that nature. But I do work with the people who were able to do all that collecting of the data, as they're helping me figure out what I'm looking at with the data that we have, because it's like we had like 80 mothers enrolled, but like I said, you're getting breast milk samples and you're getting blood samples and you're getting at like once a day over a period of years. So it's a lot of data that I have to analyze.
Absolutely. And what types of programs do you use to analyze data typically? Or what programming languages do you use or softwares do you use?
Yeah. So I'm using R, and that's what I use as the basis to kind of merge the demographics with the pollutants that I'm looking at. And the three pollutants I'm studying are black carbon, PM 2.5, and carbon monoxide. So what I do with my R is I set up like a basic code or a foundational code to be able to merge these two data forms together. And then from there, I'm comparing the three exposures over times to each other. And then from there, we use like programs maybe like MummyChug, which allows us to output what we have and create and compare that to a database online of the different biological functions or pathways. Because then at the end, we want to see, okay, we have these numbers, or we have these biological components. What are they connected to in the body, or how important they are? Are they being lessened? Or are they like being heightened? Because that's letting us know if there's any negative changes or positive changes in the body.
Kudos to you for doing that, because that seems like it would be a lot of data and a lot of work to do, but definitely necessary. And I feel like that information will be very helpful. Looking and working to help the Guatemalan population, as I guess, as well as like it could be translated to other populations as well.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's fun. Like I said, since it's new, we don't know what we're looking for, so we're going from an untargeted approach, which means we're kind of analyzing the entire scope of things instead of going and looking at one specific item or component. So that's what makes it a little more difficult. And also, like I said, since it's new too, it's not too much literature on specifically what we're doing or the technique that we're doing, but we're hoping that, we get some great results from that we're able to share.
And it seems like it would make you more of an expertise in this untargeted approach, or just being able to like come up with maybe new solutions or ideas of formalizing things that are coming out from data. So that's awesome, and I think that's cool. And good luck with the rest of that, because I don't know if I'd be able to do it,
Thank you,
to
thank
be
you.
honest. Yeah, and then
Look,
I
this is
know
fair.
you. Hey, but you'll get through it though. You'll get through. We all supported you out here. And you are a
Thank
STEM
you.
diversity. Yeah, you're welcome. You are a STEM diversity advocate. Tell us more about the importance of that, because we've heard a little bit about it during your story, thinking about you being, I guess, a child or a young woman and being interested in STEM, applying to become a bachelor's in engineering, then switching over, but then still having like this thread of STEM throughout your journey, and just like that importance, and want to be an advocate. So tell us more about why that's important, and why we should be advocating for more STEM diversity.
Definitely. So one major factor I would say is that the world is diverse. So essentially, we cannot create these institutions or these communities or spaces that do not mimic real life problems, solutions, or spaces as well. Um, so that's just one thing. And then, like I said, also science is collaborative. So if students, research scientists, investigators do not feel comfortable or not trained to be able to work with other demographics or other ethnicities or other persons that are different from them, that has a negative impact on the discoveries that are in science. I was grateful enough that the programs that I were in was so diverse, not only in just being mainly, minority based. So we have people that were Latinx, we have people that were from Asian descent. Like it was so diverse, and it's great to see and learn on my social impact when I was in middle school or high school how these roles or these personalities are so important for me in my journey. And I think it's imperative that the students are able to see people that look like them or people that are from places that they're from in spaces of power or in spaces of higher education, or that are also principal investigators, because that allows them to lessen their imposter syndrome that they have going on, so that they're able to, obtain their dreams or their goals, or even just think about going after that post undergraduate, or even like post high school. Um, it's very important that we also don't make DEI or diversity just a sexy term or a cool term. DEI is life. We have to realize that yes, we want to throw now DEI into our works, into our grants, but we actively putting in the effort to make DEI in our workplaces, to have DEI trainings, to have DEI students. It's very important that we're able to not forget the reason of why we're doing the things that we do, and not because it looks or sounds good.
Absolutely. There's diversity everywhere, and we definitely need more diverse solutions, perspectives, people working on these. And I think to your point, it's just really making sure that we are and other people are like representing these different diverse careers that you can do, whether that is in STEM or outside of STEM, so that people can see themselves in those careers and really like look up to someone and say, okay, I'm working towards this. And whether it takes you directly there or somewhere else, I think that is the journey of life, and that's the beauty of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Okay, before we move you on to the future predictions and the Furious Five, I had one other question that I wanted to ask, because you kind of alluded to it as well, wanting to be a principal investigator as like your one of the future things that you do in your career. So to tell us more about like why you'd like to do that and why that is something that you kind of aspire towards.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like being a principal investigator or like a lead investigator researcher allows me to combine my love for mentorship and education, but also my love for science. I realize now that my main goal is to not just be, doing bench work in the laboratory. I like to kind of go towards more the communication aspect, the outreach aspect, and the help formulating solutions or ideas for other scientists. And just to put on a smaller scale, that's what helped me be who I was because of the community that supported me in high school, because of my mentors or advisors in undergrad, because of the same people in graduate school. So I see how important it is to have that throughout your journey. And I know that I have so much more to assist younger scientists, especially women of color who are trying to go the same pathway that I did. And that being a PI or somebody that can kind of lead them, but still allow them to be the independent scientists that they are, it would be pretty impactful for what I want, which is essentially preparing Black women scientists for the future.
Love it, and look forward to seeing you do that and actualize that, and support so many wonderful people along their journeys as well. So thank you for that work.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so before I move you on to the Furious Five, the question that I ask all guests before the Furious Five is, where would you like to see yourself in the future?
Oh, I mean, of course, happy, but just really happy as always. But I guess in the future, I would see myself still being a leader in science, like I said, whether that's being a principal investigator or being a professor in academia, doing something with young scientists or kids. Um, Also, possibly doing more outreach work. So, like I said, transitioning from that laboratory benchwork background to more community engagement and outreach. And that's probably about it. And just volunteering my time a little bit more.
Awesome, and I think making happiness the first goal is very important, and I hope many other people will prioritize that as well, because that is something that we take for granted too often in this life.
Thank you.
Yeah. So moving on to the Furious Five, 5 questions I ask all guests. Number one. What advice would you give to a student trying to pursue a career in public health?
I would say don't be too hard on yourself. The journey is not linear. Like my journey was, I thought I had one thing and now I'm doing something completely different. Be open to new ideas and be open to new opportunities because everything can be, a learning activity.
Love it. Number two, if you were talking to someone wanting to get into your position, what advice would you give them?
I would say network and build a community. That's, the way that people speak about you before and after you leave a room is very much more important than what they have on your resume. Build those connections, keep up with those connections, and build a diverse community of mentors, friends, and colleagues. Because that's definitely going to help you get to where you are or where I am.
Yeah, absolutely. Number three, what's something you are working on improving in your life right now?
Uh, ooh, Possibly my time management. I feel like sometimes I overextend myself just because I get very eager about new things. So I just want to make sure that I'm able to be 100% into whatever I give when I sign up for something or commit to something.
I think that boundary part is something that we all need some more practice around and saying no to things. So definitely
Yes.
understand that. Number four, professionally, do you recommend anything
Ooh, profession for myself or for others?
for others, or maybe something that you've used professionally throughout your career?
Professionally, keep up with that LinkedIn. LinkedIn is important. People look you up, and even if you think some activity or some research program that you did was small or minor, put it on the LinkedIn. Build your professional foundation so when people are looking for you online, great things or the work that you have done comes up.
Yes, absolutely. And then, last but not least, where can people connect with you, Jada?
So you connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Jada Hoyle-Gardner, PhD. Also on Instagram, the STEMinist, and then also on Twitter, the STEMinist as well. All my pictures are my face, you'll see me. But more so, LinkedIn is the best way to connect with me. And then also my email, which is the letter J, and then my last name, Hoyle Gardner without the hyphen at gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, I'll be sure to link that in the show notes for anyone that is interested. But definitely, if you are interested in thinking about a postdoctoral research fellowship or environmental science PhD programs, definitely reach out to Jada. She would be immensely happy to help and support you within her boundaries, of course. But thank you so much for
Yes.
coming on and sharing, sharing your insights and perspectives.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. Thank you.
It is my pleasure. So, housekeeping items, everyone. Thank you all so much for listening or watching this. Greatly, greatly appreciated. Just be sure to subscribe. Be sure to hit that like button. Leave a 5-star review and share it with a friend. That is the best way to support the show and helps it get out to more people. So, definitely be sure to subscribe, like, review, and share with a friend. Appreciate you all. Peace.
Thank you.